Welcome to the Hamumu Halloween Home Horror Hoedown, the podcast where we watch scary movies so you don't have to.
From award-winning to completely unknown, we take them all way too seriously.
I'm your host, Mike Hummel.
And I'm your host, Solange Hummel.
Now, warning, we use a ghoulish number of spoilers, so watch the movies first.
Second warning, we don't know anything about anything, so don't take us seriously as we take these movies seriously. I don't remember what movie we're talking about.
I know you don't. I'm going to tell you.
Because it was a movie theater movie and I can't take notes, and that means that it is vanished from my brain.
Oh, that's a shame when we went to the theater and saw Carved from 2024 on Hulu.
Oh, it's not a theater movie at all.
Yeah.
You didn't let me take notes, though.
No, but you didn't try.
I didn't try.
You didn't try at all.
Honestly, I'm kind of glad I didn't waste the energy.
What?
Yeah, Carved wasn't the best movie I've ever seen.
This might be a short one because a headache is coming in. It's coming in fast and it wants to hit me.
Do you want to do this another time?
No.
Okay.
And B, it's hot in here.
It is
and
very
we
hot.
had the fan going, but we can't do that when we're recording. No, that's not the fan. That's you.
Oh.
So
I wanted to record myself speaking into the fan like I used to do as a kid, but that wasn't going to work. And C, it wasn't a very good movie. Do you have a lot of things to say about Carved?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Carved is a classic monster movie, very Halloween themed.
With heavy doses of environmental horror.
You're always saying that about every movie.
It is.
You liberals, you're obsessed with climate change.
It's an environmental horror movie. The whole thing was that they were having their Halloween celebration for the first time after the incredibly toxic spill that happened and shut down the whole city for years or something.
Yes,
I don't know.
They were doing that in 1993 in this period piece. And...
Ouch.
Sorry. Yeah, there was a toxic spill, and it turns out it mutated the pumpkins, or just one pumpkin, I don't know. And now that pumpkin wants to kill everyone it has seen carving pumpkins.
Yes, that pumpkin is now alive. Well, as someone pointed out in the movie, pumpkins are always alive.
Yeah. Well, not always, but
normally. Yeah, pumpkins are living things. But this pumpkin is a sentient being now, is really the problem. And it is brought along by the stoner guy to the pumpkin carving contest.
Yeah,
and
he thought he couldn't possibly lose if he had a disgusting-looking pumpkin with vines coming out of its eye holes.
Right. And then this pumpkin watched them all gouge up and disembowel its fellow pumpkins. Mm-hmm. And honestly, okay, as much as I thought this movie was pretty ridiculous.
Oh, now we get to the juicy part.
But I found myself, sympathizing, empathizing, I don't know what the right word is, but I found myself feeling bad for this pumpkin because this is also, you're going to say this is something I've said a lot lately too. Yeah. This is also a first contact movie.
Yeah, they're all first contact environmental horror.
This pumpkin just shows up and it's like, where am I? What is this new world that I am now aware of? And then it immediately sees its family disemboweled on a table while humans cheer and laugh and are highly entertained.
Humans are terrible.
And then it's mad and it tries to kill all the humans. And there's a big part of me that was like, yeah, that tracks. Mm-hmm. We look like fair. Monsters.
But it's very talented. It grows vines out of itself willy-nilly whenever it wants, wherever it wants. Mm-hmm. And uses them to grab the hands of the guy who was about to carve the pumpkin. It's itself about to carve it. Mm-hmm. And then I think it made him cut his own throat. Oh, cut his own head off because there were a lot of heads coming off in this movie.
Yes. There was also a point where it wrapped its vines around somebody's hand and then just yanked that hand off.
Yeah, which is something pumpkins do.
Yeah. So it was super dexterous in those situations, but then when it's trying to get into the building that is, made in classic horror story form, It is a barn where there's like a whole inch wide holes between each board that they use to make the barn, which always kind of makes me mad because if you were building a barn and it had that many holes in it, it's not a very effective barn.
It's not very good.
Anyway, it's trying to get at them. They're all hiding in this barn and it can't figure out how to open a door or even put its like skinny little tendrils through the holes in the wall. It's just like thumping up against the outside of the wall.
It was trying. I don't know.
Was it though?
Its abilities seemed strange. And the exciting part of the movie is when we discover that its vendetta is specifically against those that it saw carving pumpkins. And it didn't really care about anyone else, but it's not like it avoided killing anyone else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they said it did. There were times where it like dodged around the other people to get specifically at the people who were participating, which is the thing that made me think like, oh, first contact. Like, it's not saying I want to kill all humans just because. It is specifically trying to seek revenge for this wrong that was done by the specific humans that did the wrong.
If only it knew how many humans do that every year. Whoa. That puts a twist at the beginning of the movie that I didn't realize was happening, because it is specifically only going after them. The reporter who's filming the pumpkin carving contest ends up, seeing everybody get murdered there and runs away and hides. And he sees like that the pumpkin's stalking around, and so he's scared, and he grabs a knife and he ends up seeing it's like a scarecrow with a pumpkin for a head, and he jumps thinking it's whatever, the monster, I guess. And he turns and stabs it in the pumpkin. And that is when the pumpkin attacked him. Oh. It only attacked him when he, quote, carved a pumpkin.
Oh.
See? This is high art.
Which, is just more of that two cultures coming together, not understanding each other.
It is.
He didn't realize that pumpkin wasn't trying to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And the pumpkin didn't realize that he didn't know it was sentient. The pumpkin apparently doesn't realize that not all of the pumpkins are sentient.
I don't think it did.
So that was odd. But yeah, I hadn't put that together. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a very artistic film. It's one of those movies that opens with the monster showing up and murdering people, and then that's it. The entire runtime of the movie is this one encounter where everyone's running away, and how does it work out? And they get themselves trapped in one place and then in another place. I don't know, there's not a lot to that. There's just, it's like the difference between strategy and tactics. This is an all tactics movie. It has no strategy.
Can you elaborate on that? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, strategy is your overall plan for how something is going to be done, whereas tactics are the moment-to-moment decisions that accomplish that.
I see. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a very tactics-heavy movie.
Indeed.
In fact, toward the end, we discover that there were tactics happening that we were not being shown, which then kind of saved the day at the end because, the characters split up into different directions. And one of the characters that we thought was lost early on wasn't.
No.
And she was doing some things behind the scenes that then saved the main characters at the end.
What a dramatic
when
twist.
Almost all was lost.
If it's not obvious from the fact that a pumpkin was killing people, this is comedy horror. Not very comedic at all, just kind of dumb horror.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it wasn't taking itself super seriously, but I also don't think it was trying to be humorous.
Yeah, there were no significant jokes, but there was the whole, this guy's a stoner and listen to how goofy he's being. That was kind of it.
That was carrying the wheelbarrow's load of the work there.
Well, and also the stoner's dad, played by Chris Elliott, which is higher class than I would have expected from this movie, is also a really wacky, out there character who's just basically insane.
Yeah. And we end up back there and he doesn't believe what's happening. He thinks it's all a prank of some kind. But then the pumpkin gets there and sees that they have just a whole fence line covered with carved pumpkins.
Yeah.
Which was not great.
Yeah. There's a moment during the initial attack on the pumpkin carvers where the pumpkin injects mini vines into one of the people.
And like I'm under his skin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a thing. And it was never a thing. But like it should have been like that should have been a whole thing about, infesting humans and controlling them or whatever.
Yeah. And toward the end, I kind of thought there was going to be a thing too, because the stoner guy had been killed by the pumpkin monster. But his body was kind of lurching toward them out of the dark.
Yeah.
And I totally thought the pumpkin was going to have like put itself on top, like as his head, and was going to be like, vine moving his body around. Didn't happen. It would have been good.
But he did have like a tentacle for a head or something, because his head was gone at that point. Pretty much everyone who died lost their head.
Yeah. Now, at the same time that this like ragtag band of they like work at a historic reenactment place, right?
Yeah, something like that.
This like ragtag band of questionable actors.
Yeah.
At the same time that they are battling this evil pumpkin, there are these side stories happening amongst them. So the girl, I don't remember anybody's name. The main girl, who was the director of the play and then became the director of their tactics, essentially.
The tactical coordinator.
Yeah, yes. Her parents died, and so she's responsible for her little brother, and she's also dating one of the actors. There's two actor guys. There's like the wholesome, hayseed actor guy who wants to go to New York. And then there's the total D-bag.
Yeah, he's like beep, beep, Richie, except he's so nasty. Like he's just, he's supposed to be joking all the time, but mostly he just insults everyone and is just horrible to them.
Can we pause for 1 second? I just have to say, like, your assumption that other people are going to know what you mean by he's like beep, beep, Richie. That's such a, like, narrow age group that will get that reference.
No, because I just watched today a YouTube video about how well or poorly Stephen King's It was adapted into the recent movies that it was made into. Mm-hmm. So everybody knows Beep Beep Richie.
I don't know that that's true. I completely understand what you're saying, but I have read this. I have read it like 17 times, and I just saw the movie that we're talking about. So I know what you mean. No, I think that's funny. Yeah, he's terrible. He's absolutely terrible. Anyway, there's this drama happening because director, tactical coordinator girl is all sad because hayseed actor wants to go to New York, and he like has a new role, and he's going to leave, and she doesn't know what's going to happen because apparently there's a whole backstory that her little brother like has panic attacks, and hayseed is the only one who can keep him calm. Yeah,
there's a whole weird connection going on. I don't know. So there's that whole storyline, and like she's mad and not talking to hayseed for a while, and the whole thing, and whatever. They work through that. And she's trying to keep his leaving a secret from young boy brother.
Yes. So that's all happening. And then we also have like the manager of this place where they all work, this like reenactment place. The manager and
another employee.
Well, it's like his right-hand man, like it's the guy who like fixes all the things and has the keys and manages the walkie-talkies, and like he's the like
grounds coordinator.
Yes, he's like the groundskeeper, grounds coordinator, handyman kind of guy. So these two work very closely together. And at first it's like, the manager just really relies on him, but like throughout the course of the movie, it's more and more and more clear that manager is in love with groundskeeper.
Mm-hmm. But they don't have an actual relationship. It's just it's not that it's unrequited. It's requited, but they it's a will they, won't they.
Well, here's the thing. Something happened when they went to the Bryan Adams concert.
That's true.
So they've got some history. Somebody said something.
See, that was a joke. The Bryan Adams concert, because the employee said how he, remember what I said to you at the Bryan Adams concert, and later it comes out that what he said was, everything I do it for you, which is, that's That's a stupid joke.
That is a stupid joke. But that story, it started out, I was like, ugh, there's some like weird overtones here. And like, what are they going to do with this? You know, this is a movie set in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we weren't known for being really good at handling the whole homosexuality thing in the 90s. And instead, that story just kept getting progressively sweeter and sweeter and more touching until they ended up dying trying to save each other. And it was like very star-crossed lovers, and it was very sweet.
Pumpkin murder.
Yeah. So there's like interesting side stories that are happening as they battle this.
So you found it fascinating?
I mean, okay, here's the thing. As we talk about it, I'm realizing I liked it more than I thought I did. I don't know.
I'll say I liked whenever we saw the pumpkin running around in the distance, it was like a spider. It had like 4 vines coming out of it that it was running along. Mm-hmm. And I also want to point out that I invented the Spiderpumpkin back for my 1993 game Spiss-Popped, although it was based on the idea of the spider demon, I think it was called, I don't know, from Doom, which came out that very same year. In fact, this game Spiss-Popped was actually sort of a parody of Doom, so that made sense. And anyway, I invented it.
You did. Quite often the things that you invent get stolen by other people.
I know. Just today, I took a screenshot and shared it with my people in my Discord because I was playing Diablo and I went into a dungeon and the dungeon was called Sleepless Hollow. I invented that. That's mine.
One of the many things that people have stolen from you and then gotten rich off of.
Exactly. I'm like a fount of money.
Yes, but they just stick their tentacles into your skin and suck your ideas out of you.
Yes, they do.
I'm sorry.
In fact, the whole game, Spiss-Popped, and and to a lesser degree, Dr. Lunatic, which followed it, is about pumpkins killing people. Mm-hmm. This whole movie.
When I met you, a significant amount of your life was built around games involving violent pumpkins.
Yeah, or being violent toward pumpkins at least. Yeah. And now these guys have gotten millions and millions of dollars from it.
Indeed. And you are just suffering away.
I know. It's not fair. Now, in the end of this movie, there's a dramatic moment where they discover that there are a bunch of baby pumpkins to this mama pumpkin, which are also all alive, sentient.
That make a lot of like squeaky noises, like they're like baby birds or baby mice.
Because they're that makes them cute. There's little cute babies. Although one did try to kill one of them, and then even though one tried to kill one of them, they still just go around and pick them all up individually and stack them in a pile. So they got this row of baby pumpkins that they've laid out.
They like pave a path with baby pumpkins.
And then they drive their whatever farm equipment over it to mulch up all those pumpkins. And it is murderous and horrible, and they squeak. Yeah.
I would like to point out that notoriously, pumpkins are the kind of plant that will come back as what one in the gardening community calls a volunteer. Oh, yeah. If a pumpkin seed happens to end up in your garden somewhere, you will probably end up with a pumpkin plant growing as long as there's some amount of rain and sunlight for them, because they just do their thing.
I mean, it's a classic horror movie ending.
It is one of those things where mulching up a bunch of pumpkins really just means that next year they're going to have a very big problem.
Yeah, you gotta burn it to the ground and salt the earth.
Yeah. Also, at the very end, it had the super classic horror movie ending where you see the destruction and there's like, instead of a hand coming up out of it, there's a vine that comes up out of the mess of pumpkin.
Yeah, because it's not over.
It's not over.
We can always have sequels.
Not sure that this movie did well enough to have a sequel, but you never know.
I guess we'll find out next year.
I suppose.
Ratings.
Carved had an almost Scooby-Doo feel to it.
Yeah.
It felt like it was almost cartoonish. Mm-hmm. And like one of the characters, one of the people who works at this place is a puppeteer. Like he talks about his puppets a couple times. And every time he mentioned puppets, I'm like, oh, like the pumpkin that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Like the pumpkin puppet that you are starring with. Like, it's like watching the guy in Forgetting Sarah Marshall put on a movie instead of a puppet play, but it had the same energy to it. Which, I mean, I guess while we were watching it, I was like, ugh, this is so dumb. This is so dumb. But as I think back on it, it was kind of just silly and ridiculous.
It was silly.
And it was very cheesy. I don't think the acting was anything like special. It was all very like cheesy, right? Mm-hmm. But also it was supposed to be that. And so it kind of was exactly what it wanted to be, or what I thought it wanted to be. So I don't know. I guess if somebody really wanted just mindless fun with a silly Halloween movie, this would definitely fit the bill. If you're looking for anything with any like depth or substance to it, this is not that movie. Although there's enough underlying, with the first contact and the environmental horror and the, all of those pieces, that if you wanted to really go and like make it something more serious than it was trying to be, there's pieces there you could play with. All of that being said, I think I'm going to give this movie 2.5 bottles of herbicide and pesticide spray out of 5.
I mean, that sounds like you gave it 5, 2.5 of each.
No. It's a combo. It's an herbicide pesticide combo.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember what the actual chemical words were that she used.
She pronounced them wrong. I saw the subtitle and I was like, that's not what that is.
That doesn't surprise me. Anyway, 2.5 of those.
I am surprised that you said such lovely words about it and then gave it 2.5 stars. But
it was not a great movie.
No, it was not. But your words didn't sound like that to me.
The thing is, sometimes, not great movies are sometimes entertaining to watch.
Indeed. I feel pretty similar to you. My words are more negative than your words, but my number will be the same. I think it wasn't as dumb as it should have been. Like, it didn't have that over-the-top goofiness. It was almost like they were trying to make a legitimate horror movie and just not doing a very good job, which is not as fun as... I mean, actually, that is really fun, but only when it's really bad. And this was more mediocre. So... it just kind of wasn't that great, but it was okay. I didn't mind watching it. It was fine, but it is not worthy of more than 2.5 bottles of herbicide and pesticide combined into one bottle.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing about it is that there are some movies that do the work for you in terms of like either being so bad or so good that they're doing all the heavy lifting. And this one, you can enjoy it if you bring exactly the right
amount of weed.
That would help, I think. But like if you bring exactly the right amount of just mood and energy to watching it, it could be a fun watch. But you have to do a lot of the heavy lifting and get yourself there to enjoy it. Like, it's the kind of movie that you watch with a bunch of friends while you're all just screaming at the screen.
Yeah.
And like there's that energy for the movie to ride on, as opposed to the movie bringing the energy to the group.
I think it would work in that scenario for sure. There would be enough to say if you had your crew.
Yes.
All right.
Well, we'll be back again next week with another movie. Yet again, Mike told me today that there are multiple horror movies that come out daily.
I actually think that's true, but the number I discovered was for just movies in the US and Canada, and it was less than 2, but more than 1 a day. And I bet, though, just horror movies that don't make it into the Hollywood system, that's more than 1 a day.
But where are they going?
They're going to, on Amazon, how for some reason you can put up your own movie without being like vetted by the system. That's where they go.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
We haven't seen a Bad Ben movie in quite some time, and I bet there's been a few.
It's very possible. Anyway, due to that, there are plenty of movies for us to watch, and we will pick one and come back again next week.
Yep, we'll see you then. Good day.
There's birds.
Yay, so cute.
What are you doing, birds? Don't go in there.
Where'd he go?
Oh, into the fireplace.
Oh, no.
See?
There's a screen on it.
Don't nest in there, baby. That's not a birdhouse. They're cute little Renzies.